So it was over on our video for 4 steps for silent reflux, or LPR, that I got a great question, and it was user Catamet something or other who says, can low pancreatic enzymes cause acid reflux? So I just wanted to make a short video to answer this question and to explain the relationship between low pancreatic enzymes and acid reflux. Here we go.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So remember, I'm not a doctor and I don't know user Catamet whatever, and so I couldn't possibly be giving them any type of medical advice because I don't know their situation, so how would I know what's going to be appropriate for them? But when we're looking at acid reflux and the relationship with pancreatic enzymes, we first just want to confirm that you're not new to this channel and that you understand that acid reflux is most commonly caused by a lack of stomach acid. It's not usually caused by too much stomach acid like advertisers want us to believe, and that's the most common cause that seems to show up, yet there are other things that can create acid reflux. So the most common issue is this lack of stomach acid because there's a valve at the bottom of the esophagus called the lower esophageal sphincter that opens so food can come in, and then it's supposed to close so that acid doesn't come back up and burn us. And the problem is that LES valve is triggered by stomach acid. So if someone is not making enough acid to trigger that valve to close, then the small amount of acid they have comes back up and then it burns them. So I'm not going to go too far into acid reflux and some of the other causes and such in this video. This is going to be just a short video. But if you need to understand that better, we'll put a link in the description below this video for our full video on why do I have acid reflux. And you're going to want to dig into that a little bit more if you don't understand these situations when we're looking at reflux. So when we're looking at this pancreatic enzyme situation, it's really common for someone to see acid reflux and pancreatic insufficiency at the same time. So we want to understand what's going on here. And we talked about this HCl is really important in the stomach because that's what helps us break down our food so that we can access the nutrients in that food. That's kind of the reason that we eat food. So it's kind of a big deal. But when we're looking at the pancreas releasing enzymes, that happens down here in the duodenum, which is like the first 10 inches of the small intestine. So once the food is acidified in the stomach, it'll leave that stomach and go into the duodenum, and then the acid going into that duodenum is what triggers the pancreas to say, hey, it's time to let go of some bicarb. That's going to help the bile that comes from the gallbladder, help all those things neutralize the acids that are leaving the stomach. And it's also going to tell the pancreas to release those enzymes. So what we need to understand about this activity of things being triggered is that those things are actually being triggered by a hormone called cholecystokinin. And cholecystokinin happens here in the duodenum, and it kind of tells the gallbladder, hey, it's time to squirt some bile down here. Bile is very important to help us digest our food correctly. And then it also tells the pancreas, hey, squirt out some bicarb and some enzymes to help us digest this food correctly. So it's important to understand that it's cholecystokinin that are triggering those activities, but cholecystokinin is triggered by stomach acid. So cholecystokinin can also be triggered by fats and amino acids, but the biggest trigger seems to be the stomach acid. And one thing to think about is that for amino acids to trigger cholecystokinin in the duodenum, those proteins would have to be broken down by hydrochloric acid. We need hydrochloric acid to break proteins down into amino acids. So it's really mostly about the stomach acid triggering that cholecystokinin to tell the gallbladder to drop the bile down and to tell the pancreas that it's time to release those enzymes. So a lot of times it's not really about the pancreas can't produce enough enzymes and oh man, you got to get a new pancreas. Maybe you can pick one up at a garage sale. Usually it's about the pancreas like, hey, I'm doing the best I can. I'm not being told to do my job. I'm waiting to be told to do my job. So it's the cholecystokinin that tells the pancreas to do the job, but in most cases it needs to be stomach acid leaving the stomach to trigger that cholecystokinin. And it's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons. So we also think about it this way. When someone's having acid reflux, it's almost always because they don't have enough stomach acid. They just have a small amount, and that small amount is coming up and burning them. So if they only have a small amount and can't trigger that LES valve to close correctly and stop the reflux, it makes sense that there's not enough acid to come down into the duodenum and trigger the cholecystokinin that tells the pancreas to let go of these enzymes. So I'll put some links in the description below, some studies and papers that kind of tell us, like, look, the medical's viewpoint here is that pancreatic insufficiency and acid reflux are not really caused by each other. They're seen together a lot, but the reflux is happening here in the stomach and this pancreatic insufficiency is happening a little bit further down the line. But another thing we need to think about is that sometimes it's not that the person just isn't making enough stomach acid. They might also have some type of bacterial overgrowth that is alkalizing that stomach. So they may be able to make a little bit of stomach acid, but maybe this overgrowth is alkalizing the situation so that they can't really acidify the food, and then there's not enough acid to trigger the LES valve to close, and there's not enough acid to go into the duodenum and trigger the cholecystokinin to tell the pancreas to produce these enzymes. So sometimes it's about reducing an overgrowth there. And a lot of times the overgrowth is there because there wasn't enough stomach acid to keep them out. That stomach acid is like the barrier to the digestive tract. So the only way that I could think about pancreatic insufficiency creating acid reflux is that these enzymes here really help us break our foods down more. And we really need them to be acidified correctly first to really start that digestive process. But the enzymes help us break that down further. And if there's no enzymes, then a lot of those food particles have to kind of break down by like rotting or fermenting. And that can create a lot more gases. And then gases can create pressure that pushes things back up. And that pressure can be coming from the small intestine or the stomach. That can kind of push things out. Maybe somebody has a lot of gas. Maybe somebody has a lot of bloating or is getting pushed out. But for some people, it will push things back up, and then they'll either burp or they'll have acid reflux. So if somebody was like, hey, here's how pancreatic insufficiency is causing acid reflux, I'd be like, okay, all right, in a roundabout way I can kind of see that. But really, in most cases, it's about this lack of stomach acid not triggering those enzymes to come out in the first place. So when a person can fix that low stomach acid issue, not only do they usually fix the reflux, but they're also now telling the pancreas, oh yeah, hey, it's time to do your job. And he's like, okay, thank you, I've been waiting. So to fix this issue, I really like to see somebody improve any low stomach acid issues. And if you don't know how to do that, if you're new here, my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 3 and 4, kind of walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and steps you can take to improve those situations. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below so you can get the whole thing totally for free. Because you really want to know how to increase the stomach acid the right way. And then a person might need to reduce an overgrowth if it's there so that that stomach can acidify things correctly. And then does a person really need to supplement with digestive enzymes? And they may, you know, as we age, our stockpile of enzymes kind of diminish. We have other videos on when should I use digestive enzymes. You can dig into those if you need to. But for most people, it's really about getting that stomach acid working so the pancreas can be notified that it's time to put out those enzymes. And then using some digestive enzymes can often be beneficial in a lot of circumstances, but it's usually not just about putting in enzymes. If you put in more enzymes without fixing the actual stomach acid problem, I did this when I lost my voice for 8 years and was trying to, with 23 different doctors, to get my voice back. This is one of the mistakes I made, is that I didn't fix this stomach acid issue so that it would trigger this LES valve to close, but I put more enzymes in there. So now I have more enzymes coming up, and some of those are made to break down protein. Well, guess what all these tissues are made of? It's protein. So I was just kind of magnifying my problem. But I think supplementing with enzymes can be beneficial once you fix this low stomach acid issue. So I hope that helps, and we'll have the link to that acid reflux video in the description below if you need to dig into that. But right now, if you want to understand that pancreatic insufficiency thing a little bit more, you can jump over and check out our video on understanding pancreatic insufficiency. I can't wait to hear about your results.